Welcome everyone to my Week 3 college football predictions. Today we are going to be going through what I believe to be the best and most interesting games on the Week 3 slate. Full transparency, I'm a Georgia fan. I'm going to do my best to stay objective, but if I fail, call me out in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button so you can catch our content every week. It is completely free and we appreciate any of the support we can get. Now, on to the video. First up, you got Clemson taking on Georgia Tech. Now, Clemson is a team that was overhyped by sports media all offseason. It was obvious. I don't know why everyone just blindly went along with it. Georgia Tech is a team that didn't get enough respect in the offseason, and I'm saying that as a Georgia fan. Tech has built a really good, solid program there. Do not be surprised if they show up and play better ball than Clemson and win this game. That being said, as unimpressive as Clemson has been so far, they do have a lot of talent. They are talented enough to be a top 20, a top 15, maybe even top 10 team if they put it all together and they play like they should. We saw last week what it looks like when they don't, though. They struggled with Troy. And with respect to Troy and that program, they should not have been able to hang around with Clemson. That was ridiculous. Georgia Tech, they've had issues so far, too. They had a sloppy game against Colorado in week 1 with all those turnovers. It's amazing they won that game, frankly. Last week they had some turnover issues as well, but it was against a lower team, so it wasn't really a problem for them. I don't really know how this game is going to look. I would expect it to be somewhat sloppy, but I think both teams are going to show up ready to play. That's my guess. Both teams are going to be ready for this because it's a big matchup in the ACC. The winner of this game is going to be one of the favorites to win the conference in my eyes, and I think if Georgia Tech wins this game, most of sports media is going to agree with that. They have a shot in the ACC. Clemson needs to win this game. I don't think that they're going to get into the playoffs with an at-large bid. If they take another loss, then it's definitely not going to happen. They got to win the ACC at this point. I'm going to pick Clemson to win this game purely because of the talent, and I believe that Dabo Swinney is going to have them ready to play. I think Dabo knows they need this game. They got to get this win. The way they've looked after 2 weeks so far, this is a must-win game for Clemson. If they lose this, season's going down the drain, honestly. So give me Clemson. They're going to show up ready to play for once this season at least. And sorry, Georgia Tech. I respect you, but you don't have the talent to match what Clemson has here if they show up ready to play. So give me Clemson in a close game. Moving on, we've got a matchup I guarantee you I'll be watching. It's my Georgia Bulldogs taking on the Tennessee Volunteers. Now, the Vols have looked really good so far. They've definitely passed the eye test. The problem is they haven't really played anyone that impressive. They played East Tennessee State University last week, I think. Yes, that is a real school, I'm pretty sure. They didn't show up for that game, but they're a real school. They played Syracuse in week 1, and I think Syracuse is solid. They're probably like a 6-6 type team this year, but they still looked really good against the Orange. Tennessee's impressive so far. You got to respect that. Georgia, we've not really played anyone. I'll be the first to tell you that. In years past, I got to say we have scheduled tough competition. This year, for whatever reason, it was Marshall and Austin Peay, and we haven't looked very good so far. And I'm not really surprised. Kirby and the Dogs tend to do this every year. We have one game where we don't play our best for some reason against a lower level team. And then we come out strong against a very good opponent, and we put it all together. And that's kind of what I'm expecting here. I think the Dogs are going to be ready for Tennessee. I will be honest, I'm more scared of Tennessee this year than I expected to be. Preseason, I was thinking, no, there's no way Tennessee's a real threat to us. But I'm a little scared. If their offense shows up and their defense contains our offense, I mean, of course, then they have a good chance. And I think that they are capable of that. I think that the key here is going to be if Gunnar Stockton is going to find his receivers. We have a good receiver room this year. We're going to be able to get open against their injured secondary. If Gunnar can find his receivers, we should be able to score enough to win this game. If not, it's going to be a struggle, and Tennessee has a chance. I'm going to take the Dogs, though, not even just out of bias. I think we're still just the better team overall. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll be crying. I'll be hurting, but I don't want to lose to Tennessee. They're my rival and all, but I think we're going to get the job done. Kirby's going to have us ready to play. Go Dogs. Next up, you got Miami taking on my new second favorite team, South Florida. South Florida has been so impressive so far this year. They opened up with a beatdown over Boise State, who, for the record, they shouldn't have been ranked to begin with, but that's still a good win for them. That established South Florida as one of the top group of 5 teams. And then they went into the swamp and they beat the Florida Gators. As a Georgia fan, I loved that. I was laughing my head off at that. That was amazing. L Florida. You can't spell Florida without L. South Florida, though, you probably could, and they'd still be good. South Florida is very impressive so far, but can they match up with Miami? I hope so. I'm rooting for them. I shouldn't be saying that. There's no hate against Miami, but I think that South Florida winning would be such an amazing story. Miami, though, they've been one of the most impressive teams so far to me. They have one of the best wins in the country against Notre Dame, Miami was someone I was disrespecting in the offseason. I didn't think that they were going to be different this year. I thought it's the same as last year. They're going to be really good in offense and not much of a defense. They proved me wrong in week 1 against Notre Dame. They had a good enough offense and what looked like a pretty good defense. That should be enough for them to be the favorite in the ACC right now. I'm going to take Miami here. I'm rooting for South Florida. I hope that they find a way to get it done, but Miami is much more talented, and they're not going to be overlooking the Bulls after what they did to Florida. Give me the Hurricanes here. I think they get the job done. All right, next up we got a game I feel like not enough people are talking about. It's the Ole Miss Rebels taking on Arkansas. And Ole Miss was a team I was really high on in the offseason. I really liked Austin Simmons. So far, he's had some turnover issues. Not really sure what's going on there. Ole Miss hasn't been that good so far. They struggled against Kentucky, and maybe that's just because Kentucky has their number for whatever reason. That's super weird. But I wasn't impressed last week with Ole Miss. Arkansas, they've not really played anyone yet. They've looked really good against lowly competition, which is all you can ask of them, honestly. They've looked really good against bad teams, which is what good teams are supposed to do. I think Arkansas is sneakily talented, and they are going to be in this game. No one's really talking about it, but Ole Miss is on upset alert here. They are absolutely on upset alert based on how they looked against Kentucky, and based on how Arkansas has looked so far. I would not be shocked if Arkansas pulled this off. That being said, I'm going to stick with my belief in Ole Miss. I think they get it together. I think Austin Simmons is going to play, and he's going to put forth a great performance at night, and he's going to hold off the Hogs. I wouldn't be surprised, again, if this were to be an upset, and neither should you. Respect to Arkansas, but I'm going to say Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, they get it done, they find a way to win, and what should probably be a high-scoring contest. It'll be an entertaining game, keep your eyes on it, give me Ole Miss. Next up, we got Duke versus Tulane, and there is some intrigue here to me because Tulane could be one of the teams that makes the playoffs for the group of 5. Right now, everybody's talking about South Florida, but Tulane is still one of the main favorites to emerge out of that group. So I really want to see how they look against a good Power 5 team because Northwestern in week 1 doesn't really count. I'm sorry. Duke isn't elite or anything, but they're a good, solid team. They were very much in that game against Illinois last week for most of it. Illinois kind of blew them out in the fourth quarter, and the final score makes it look ugly, but Duke was in that game. They're a good, solid team. They're just not really any better than that. Just good and solid. So I'm really interested to see how Tulane looks against them. It'll give us a good idea of how they would fare against Power 5 competition. Again, Northwestern not really counting for the sake of this. I am going to go with Duke here. I was kind of concerned by Tulane's performance last week against South Alabama. I mean, they controlled the game, but South Alabama made it closer in the end than they should have, and I think Duke is going to be looking to bounce back here. Duke's going to win a close one. Tulane's going to be disappearing from the main conversation for a little bit, but don't write them off completely, because in the American, they could still win that conference. They could still be a playoff team, so don't forget about Tulane. For this week, though, I'm going to take Duke. Next up, you got South Carolina taking on Vanderbilt, and one thing that's interesting about this matchup is these teams already have a common opponent, and this early in the season, that's rare. I can't think of anyone else who has a common opponent right now. Maybe there is someone, but let me know in the comments. As of right now, though, these are the only teams that come to mind. They've both played Virginia Tech. One team, though, looked more impressive than the other while beating Virginia Tech, and that's Vanderbilt. They had a close game at halftime, and then Vanderbilt beat the crap out of Tech in the second half. It was really impressive. South Carolina played a close game against Tech, and it was kind of ugly to watch. I've not been impressed by South Carolina so far, and to be honest with you, I don't know why they're ranked so high in the AP poll. And this is coming from someone who was really high in them last year and really likes Lenore Sellers. Like, I'm a big fan of Sellers. I think he's going to do great things in college football and in the NFL someday. So I really like their quarterback. The problem is I don't really love the rest of the team around him. And I do think they have more talent overall than Vanderbilt, though, so they should be able to win this game. But from what we've seen so far, don't be so confident in that. Vanderbilt has looked like the better team so far. I think Vanderbilt has a better case to be ranked right now than South Carolina does, because just based on performance and eye test and resume, like, Vanderbilt's got them beat so far. That being said, I'm going to take South Carolina, because again, I'm a big fan of Lenore Sellers. I think he's going to have a big game here. I think he's going to put them over the top. South Carolina's going to get the job done, and they better, because if they don't, I think their season's going off the rails. If they can't win this game against Vanderbilt, based on the schedule they have coming up, this is a must-win game for them. So hopefully I'm right and they get it done. Give me South Carolina in a close game. Next up, you got LSU taking on unranked Florida. Unranked because they lost at home to South Florida last week. So you would think number 3 LSU is going to win this game, right? Well, let's talk about it. LSU is overrated right now, in my opinion at least. This is just my take. I think LSU's overrated. They were overhyped all offseason, and then they beat another overhyped team in week 1 by a touchdown, 17-10, ugly game, and that vaulted them up to the top 4, top 3 in the rankings. And that's where they are right now. Now, granted, based on how rankings work, or at least how they should work, with resume, merit, eye test, talent, all of that, LSU belongs pretty high in the rankings, but number 3 is too high. I don't think they're that good. They should be better than Florida, though. Florida's a very talented team. There's a reason they were ranked in the top 20 to start the season, but they just haven't shown it so far. Now, I am going to get bold here. I'm going to take Florida for the upset. I think that their season is basically on the line already, which is crazy to say in Week 3, but when you lose to South Florida at home in Week 2, I mean, Week 3 becomes a whole lot bigger than it should have been. So Florida needs this win. I think Napier's job could end up being on the line. Like, he needs this win. The team needs this win. LSU is coasting right now. This could be a dark spot for them to fall. I'm going to take the Gators, and I hope I'm wrong. I'm a Georgia fan. I want to be wrong about this, but I have this weird feeling that Florida's going to show up, and they're going to win a weird game against LSU. So, give me the Gators. And finally, you got Notre Dame taking on Texas A&M. I'm excited for this game. I think it's going to tell us a lot. We're going to find out more about Notre Dame. I believe that they are a top 10 team right now. I believe that they deserve that. I think they're good enough. I think they should be a playoff team when all is said and done. Or maybe they're not that good. Maybe they regressed that much, and maybe Miami ends up being overrated now. I don't really know what to expect, but my guess is that Notre Dame is very good. But we're also going to find out about Texas A&M, because they've got the talent to be a really good team this year. They've got the talent to be in the playoff conversation, at least toward the end of the season. But we know how A&M is. They've always got the talent, they've always got chances, and they always seem to come up short. So this game is going to be very telling for us as to whether or not they're ready to compete on the big stage against really good teams. I'm going to take Notre Dame at home, though. They need a win. They're 0-1 right now. They can start 0-2 and win out and make the playoffs, but this is a pivotal game for them. There's a sense of urgency in the building there. A&M, I've not really been impressed with so far. They've played down twice so far. They've won by like 20 points in both games, I think, something like that, against lesser teams. But they haven't looked that good so far. They've been fine, just not as good as I was hoping. I think it's going to be a competitive game, but I think that Notre Dame is simply the better team. They're very solid, well-rounded. I think they're going to show up, and they're going to get the job done. Alright, that'll do it for my Week 3 college football predictions. I hope you guys enjoyed. I did my best with what little I've got. We've only got 2 weeks of data so far, and we're going to find out a lot more about these teams really soon, I hope. I think a lot of what I said was pretty decent. I think pretty reasonable. I know I went kind of out there picking Florida to upset LSU, for example, but sometimes you just got to go based on what you feel. It's college football. Anything can happen, right? Sometimes there is no explanation and stuff happens. So I hope I'm wrong, because I'm a Georgia fan. I don't want Florida to win, but we'll see what happens. If I did not cover your team's game and give you a prediction on that, just let me know your team in the comments, and I'll tell you what I think of their matchup this week. Like, Alabama fans, don't worry. The reason I didn't cover your matchup is because I think it's really clear that you guys are going to win, and I'm just not interested in that game. I'm sorry, Wisconsin. I'm not feeling it. But yeah, let me know in the comments who your team is, and I'll tell you who I think will win. To my right here, as you can probably tell, I've got my own personal top 25 college football rankings. I thought the AP poll is so illogical and inconsistent. I don't really know how they decide things. It doesn't make sense a lot of the time. So I'm making my own rankings. And this deserves its own video, but I'm sorry, I didn't have time to do it this week. Next week, I will devote time to doing that. But if you have questions about my top 25, just drop them in the comments. I will respond. I will defend my rankings. I'm using some kind of method of eye test, resume, just the talent that you have. I'm trying to find a good balance between all of that. So teams that are higher in my rankings usually have a good win. They have the resume to back it up. I want you to earn your ranking to some degree. And sometimes that means you just have really good talent. Sometimes it means you've one of the best wins in the nation. That's why Miami is at 2 in my ranking. It's like they've got one of the best wins in my eyes in the nation. And they've looked really good so far. So it's some combination of that. I promise you I didn't just do random rankings here. I had a system that I went with, and this is what it chewed out. So let me know what you think. I will defend and explain anything if you have questions. And that's going to do it for this video, though. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. We appreciate any support we can get. I'll see you all in the next one.